Hey, welcome back for another deep dive.
Mm.
You're planning to study abroad. That's awesome. And so you've got like this stack of information about all the financial stuff, right?
Yeah.
From like income statements to real world examples. Honestly, even I was surprised by some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Our mission is to decode these documents, figure out why they're so important, and maybe uncover a few surprising facts along the way.
Yeah, it's fascinating how so many people see these documents as just like numbers on a page, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When there's so much more. They really tell stories, financial stories,
Right.
about a person or a company or even a whole country,
Right. Like, is it a thriller where you barely make rent?
right?
Or is it a feel-good comedy where your savings account is the hero?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, but first things first, what are we even talking about when we say financial documents?
They're basically records that give us a peek into someone's financial health. And they can be simple, like a bank statement,
Right.
or super complex, like a company's annual report.
Yeah.
But the key types we'll be focusing on today are balance sheets, income statements, tax returns, the essentials.
So if those are like the puzzle pieces, what's the picture they're creating?
Mm-hmm.
Why should you care about these documents?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with this study abroad dream.
So for starters, they provide transparency. They show you where your money's going,
Right.
which is crucial for budgeting and planning.
Right.
Think of it like this. Would you go on a trip without knowing how much money you had or where you were going?
Definitely not. That sounds more like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. Financial documents help you avoid those surprises, those financial surprises.
Okay.
And speaking of surprises, we can't forget about the tax authorities.
Right.
These documents are essential for compliance, making sure you're paying your fair share and stay on the right side of the law.
Right. All right, taxes. No one's favorite topic, but definitely important. Now, diving into specifics, the source material uses this great analogy for balance sheets.
Mm.
They're like a financial snapshot in time.
Right.
There's assets, things you own, like your awesome laptop.
And then there's liabilities, things you OWE. Maybe that loan you took out for the laptop, but the really interesting part is equity.
Okay, equity. Is that like the financial version of like street cred?
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
It's basically what's left over after you subtract your liabilities from your assets. Imagine selling everything you own, right?
Okay.
And using that cash to pay off all your debts. Whatever's left, that's your equity,
Wow.
a measure of your financial freedom.
That's powerful. Okay, so on to income statements. The source material calls these the financial movie.
Right.
Because they show income and expenses over time.
Exactly. It's like tracking the flow of money. How much is coming in? How much is going out?
Mm-hmm.
Are you earning more than you spend? That's the blockbuster ending you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's where net income comes in. Is your financial movie a hit or a flop?
Right. Okay. So balance sheet is the snapshot. Income statement is the movie. Got it. But before we move on, we have to talk about everybody's favorite topic. Taxes. Everyone loves taxes. Right. I know. But the source material makes a great point. Understanding why tax returns are important can make them, like, less daunting. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, firstly, tax returns are all about accountability. They're documenting your income, deductions, and how much you owe in taxes for the year. But here's the thing. If you've been keeping good records, using those other documents we talked about,
Yeah.
filing your taxes is much less of a headache.
So it's like good record keeping with those initial documents leads to smoother sailing when tax season rolls around.
Precisely. And this is especially important when you're thinking about your study abroad plans, because you'll likely be dealing with taxes in both your home country and your host country.
Right.
So it gets tricky. Okay, so speaking of studying abroad, let's shift gears and talk about how these documents actually come into play when you're trying to, actually get into another country to study.
So one of the most critical documents you'll need is proof of funds.
Okay.
This typically involves providing bank statements to show that you can afford to live and study in your chosen country.
Right.
Think of it like reassuring the university and the visa officers that you're financially responsible and won't, end up living on ramen noodles for your entire stay.
Right. It's like saying, hey, I'm good for it. Let me in.
Exactly.
Now, what if you need some financial assistance to make this whole dream a reality? What role do loans play in this whole document dance?
Well, if you're relying on loans to finance your studies, you'll need to have all the loan documentation in order. And this is essential not just for visa applications, but also for planning your finances responsibly.
Yeah, because no one wants to be surprised by like a mountain of debt after they graduate, right?
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. Different countries have unique financial requirements.
Okay.
For example, the source mentions Germany's blocked account. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it, but I'm, to be honest, a little fuzzy on the details. Could you
Okay.
break it down for us?
Sure. Essentially, Germany requires international students to deposit a certain amount of money into a special account.
Okay.
Think of it like a financial safety net
Mm-hmm.
that they can only access once they arrive in the country.
Okay.
This proves that they have sufficient funds to support themselves during their studies. We're talking, around 11,208 euros for a year. Though it's always subject to change, so you always have to check the latest requirements.
Wow, that's a significant chunk of change. It sounds like navigating all these document requirements can be a real headache. And actually, our source material has some real-world examples that highlight how crucial it is to, to get this right.
Those are invaluable.
Mhm.
They really show how important it is to start early,
Right.
to be meticulous,
Yeah.
and even to consider seeking guidance from experts who can help you navigate the complexities.
Right.
Yeah.
For example, there's a story of Uday who faced delays getting his loan approved because, well, he kind of procrastinated and didn't have his financial ducks in a row.
Right, right. And that's, his experience is a reminder that organization is key, and that sometimes seeking professional help can save you a lot of stress and potential setbacks.
Right. And then there's Shirag, who wanted his uncle to sponsor him. It seemed pretty straightforward at first, but then his uncle's financial records were all over the place, which caused major delays.
It's a good reminder that even when you think things are simple, the devil's in the details,
Yeah.
especially when other people's finances are involved.
Right. And then there's Kuthika, who really struggled setting up that German blocked account that we talked about.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that understanding those country-specific requirements and seeking guidance when dealing with unfamiliar systems is absolutely essential. So if we're distilling all of these examples down to like key takeaways, start early, pay attention to detail, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely, yeah. Procrastination is your enemy when it comes to financial documentation, especially for something as important as studying abroad.
Now, while we're looking ahead, the source material also mentions some interesting trends that could shape the future of these documents. I mean, who knows what bank statements or tax returns will look like in a few years?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Technology is rapidly transforming this space.
Mm.
We're seeing the rise of artificial intelligence and automation, which could streamline a lot of processes and even reduce errors.
So robots doing our taxes while we sip lemonade on a beach.
Maybe not that extreme, but it's definitely moving in that direction.
Wow.
And then there's the shift towards digital-only records.
Right.
It's convenient, but what does it mean for security and access if, systems crash or get hacked?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that I'm sure we will be exploring as we continue our deep dive.
Exactly. Imagine, like, a world where your financial data isn't just held by your bank, right?
Mm.
But it's recorded on this vast and secure digital ledger, and anyone can verify it.
Okay.
That's essentially what blockchain is all about.
So I'm picturing like a giant shared spreadsheet in the cloud. Is that close?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Okay. But how would that like actually impact something like my bank statement or a company's income statement?
Well, imagine your bank statement, right? It wasn't just like a monthly snapshot from your bank, but it was like a continuously updated record on the blockchain,
Right.
verified, tamper-proof.
Yeah.
Think how much easier things like loan applications would be.
Right.
Lenders could just access your verified financial history right there on the blockchain.
Wow. Okay. So less paperwork, more transparency, fewer delays. I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Exactly. And this goes beyond personal finance, right? Imagine the impact on global supply chains.
Okay.
Companies could track the movement of goods and payments in real time with incredible accuracy and transparency. This could reduce fraud, make audits smoother, build more trust between businesses.
So it's not just about individuals, it's about transforming like how whole industries manage financial information.
Right.
But with all this talk of tech taking over, are human accountants about to go extinct?
That's a question that comes up a lot. And it's understandable given how fast AI and automation are developing.
Right.
But, while those technologies can definitely handle a lot of the routine tasks, human expertise it's evolving, not disappearing.
So instead of like robots versus humans, it's more like humans with robots.
Exactly.
We use the technology to do the heavy lifting while humans focus on like the strategy, the ethics, all that stuff that robots aren't like good at yet.
Precisely. Accountants of the future will likely become more like financial advisors.
Oh, okay.
They'll use their knowledge to interpret data, spot trends, give strategic guidance, things AI isn't quite ready for.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having a co-pilot. They handle the technical stuff. You focus on like navigating the bigger picture. Now, speaking of navigating, let's loop back to your study abroad plans. We've covered the documents you need to get there. But what about managing your money once you're actually living in another country?
That's a whole other ballgame. And the sources you provided have some great tips.
Okay.
For starters, opening a local bank account can make, managing your money much smoother and help you avoid all those pesky international transaction fees.
Right, because who wants to lose money every time they buy groceries or, that cool vintage poster they just have to have?
Exactly. Budgeting is also crucial, especially since the cost of living might be different from what you're used to back home.
I can imagine, yeah. Everything from rent to that daily coffee could be a surprise.
It's always good to do your research beforehand. And also be sure to look into any tax implications or, government assistance programs for international students in your chosen country.
Okay, so basically, the more prepared and informed you are, the less likely you are to end up with a financial hangover from your study abroad experience.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And this brings up another critical aspect of financial documentation, the issue of cybersecurity.
Oh, right. Yeah, with all this data being like stored and shared digitally, security becomes a huge concern. What are some of the key risks and potential solutions that are outlined in these sources?
As we move towards a, more digital world, the threat of data breaches, identity theft, financial fraud, it rises significantly. Robust cybersecurity measures are no longer optional. They're essential, both individually and at an organizational level.
It feels like every other day there's a news story about a big company getting hacked or someone's identity being stolen. So what can we actually do to protect ourselves in this like digital jungle?
The sources you shared suggest starting with strong passwords and multi-factor authentication for all your online accounts.
Okay, so password 123 and my pet's name are officially out.
Definitely. It's also crucial to be aware of phishing scams.
Right.
Those emails or messages that try to trick you into giving away personal information.
Yeah.
Legitimate organizations will never ask for sensitive data like your passwords or bank details through email.
It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true.
It probably is.
Right.
You got it.
Yeah.
If you're ever unsure, contact the organization directly through their official channels, not the ones in a suspicious email. And let's not forget about encryption.
Okay, encryption. That sounds very technical. Can you break it down for us non-techies?
Think of encryption as a secret code that only the intended recipient can crack.
Okay.
Many websites, email providers, and messaging apps use it to protect your data while it's being transmitted.
Right.
This makes it much harder for hackers to access your information, even if they intercept it.
So it's like having a digital bodyguard for our data.
Exactly. Along with strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and being aware of phishing scams, you should also make sure your software and operating systems are always up to date.
Okay.
Those updates often include security patches that fix vulnerabilities, weaknesses that hackers could exploit.
It sounds like staying safe online takes constant effort, almost like a part-time job.
It does require vigilance, but it's worth it to protect your financial well-being. And this isn't just about individuals, right? Businesses and institutions that handle sensitive financial data need to step up their game too.
So what are some steps they can take to like beef up their cybersecurity defenses?
Well, regular and thorough security audits are crucial,
Okay.
to find weaknesses and implement strong security protocols.
So basically companies need to like constantly check for holes in their system and then put safeguards in place to prevent like breaches and things like that.
That's right. And employee training is just as important. Human error is often a major factor in security breaches. So teaching employees about good cybersecurity practices, like recognizing phishing scams, using strong passwords, it's a must.
It seems like cybersecurity is like a never-ending race, with hackers always trying to find new ways to attack and security experts working to stay one step ahead.
That's a great analogy. And as technology continues to evolve, we can expect this dynamic to become even more complex.
So it's not just about understanding financial documents themselves, but also like understanding the digital landscape they exist in
Yeah,
and protecting our information.
precisely. Now let's talk about some trends emerging on the horizon that could reshape how we think about financial documents in the years to come. One of the most intriguing developments is the rise of embedded finance.
Okay, I've heard that term, but I'm not sure I fully grasp it. Could you shed some light on it?
Of course. Embedded finance essentially means integrating financial services like, things like payments or lending directly into non-financial apps and platforms.
Okay, so instead of going to like a separate bank or website, you could handle those transactions within apps you're already using every day.
Exactly. Imagine ordering a ride through a ride-sharing app, right? And then having the option to instantly split the fare with friends or even pay using a microloan, all within the same app.
Okay, that sounds incredibly convenient, but how would this impact financial documentation?
As embedded finance becomes more common, we'll likely see a shift toward financial records that are more real-time, dynamic, and personalized.
So instead of like those static monthly statements, we might have live dashboards that track our finances across like various platforms and give us personalized insights, maybe even some helpful suggestions.
You got it. It's all about moving towards a more integrated, data-driven, and user-friendly approach to managing your money.
This all sounds both exciting and a bit overwhelming. I mean, just keeping up with our finances as they are now can be challenging enough. How are we supposed to handle like all this new complexity?
You've hit on a key point. Financial literacy is more important now than ever before.
So it's not just about like balancing a checkbook or understanding how the stock market works.
Hmm.
It's about having like a broader understanding of financial concepts, digital tools, and the impact of these emerging technologies like AI and blockchain.
Exactly. And that's where education and awareness come in. We need to equip people with the knowledge and skills to make smart financial decisions, to avoid scams, and to seize the opportunities that these new technologies present.
But where do we even begin? Financial literacy can feel like this vast, intimidating topic.
It can be, but there are plenty of resources out there to help. The sources you shared highlight initiatives by both government agencies and private organizations aimed at improving financial literacy for people of all ages and backgrounds.
So there are like programs, courses, maybe even apps that can help people grasp the basics of things like budgeting, investing, and these new trends we've been talking about.
Absolutely. And it's not just about formal education. You can also boost your financial knowledge through informal channels like reading books, listening to podcasts like this one,
Yep.
or even just talking to people you trust who are financially savvy.
It sounds like financial literacy is like a lifelong journey, not a one-time destination. We need to just like keep learning and adapting as the financial landscape shifts around us.
That's a great way to put it. As we look ahead, it's clear that technology will keep transforming how we manage and interact with our financial information.
So more automation, more data, more complexity.
Yes, but also more opportunities for efficiency, transparency, and empowerment. The key is to make sure these advancements benefit everyone and don't widen the gap between those who have access and those who don't.
Right. We don't want to create a system where only people with like the latest tech skills or like fancy gadgets can succeed financially.
Exactly. Financial inclusion is crucial. We have to make sure these advancements are accessible and beneficial to people from all walks of life.
It sounds like it's not just about the technology itself, but how we design, implement, and regulate it to ensure fairness and opportunity for everyone.
You hit the nail on the head. And this brings us right back to the importance of financial literacy in education. By empowering individuals with the knowledge and skills to navigate this evolving financial landscape, we can help create a more inclusive and equitable financial future for everyone.
It's been amazing exploring the world of financial documents and like peeking into how we might manage our money in the years to come. From the core purpose of like transparency and accountability to the mind-blowing potential of emerging technologies, it's clear these documents are more than just pieces of paper or digital records. They're like tools that can shape our financial well-being, our economic opportunities, and ultimately our lives.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've established that, financial literacy is more essential than ever in this rapidly changing world. But honestly, like where do we even begin? It feels like such a massive and frankly like intimidating topic.
I get it. It can definitely feel overwhelming. But the good news is you don't have to become a financial guru overnight, right?
Right.
Start by focusing on the fundamentals.
Hmm.
Budgeting, saving, understanding basic investment concepts.
Okay.
There are tons of resources out there, from beginner-friendly websites and apps to workshops and online courses.
So we're talking about like creating a budget that actually works, learning how to save for like, big goals like a down payment on a house, or maybe even figuring out this whole investing thing that always seems so mysterious.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right.
Financial advisors, credit counselors, even just knowledgeable friends or family members can be valuable resources. Remember, everyone starts somewhere, and there's no shame in seeking guidance.
It's like learning a new language.
Right.
You don't expect to become fluent overnight. You start with the basics, you practice consistently, and you gradually build your skills over time.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And just like with language learning, consistency is key with financial literacy.
Right.
Make it a habit to stay informed about, financial news and trends, review your budget regularly, and check in on your investments.
The sources you provided also mentioned the importance of teaching financial literacy to kids and teenagers.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It seems like the earlier we start learning about money, like the better equipped we'll be to make smart decisions later in life.
Absolutely. It's much easier to develop healthy financial habits early on than to try to break bad habits later, right?
Right.
Imagine if personal finance was just like a regular part of the school curriculum.
Yeah.
Kids would grow up understanding concepts like budgeting, saving, and investing as second nature.
That would be amazing. It could make such a difference in helping young people like avoid those common financial pitfalls and set themselves up for success.
It's an investment in their future,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively.
Right. Okay.
And speaking of investments, the source material touches on how technology is changing the way we invest.
Mhm.
You know, robo-advisors, fractional shares, crowdfunding platforms. It's a whole new world out there.
Okay, I've heard those terms thrown around, but to be honest, I'm not quite sure what they all like mean. Can you break it down for us?
Sure. Robo-advisors are basically automated investment platforms that use algorithms to build and manage your portfolio based on your risk tolerance and financial goals.
Okay.
They can be a great option for hands-off investors who prefer a more automated approach.
So it's like having a virtual financial advisor who's like available 247 and doesn't charge those hefty fees that human advisors often do.
Exactly. Then there are fractional shares, which allow you to invest in smaller portions of individual stocks.
Yeah.
This could be a game changer for people who, want to invest in companies with high share prices, but don't have a lot of capital to start with.
That sounds like a great way to like diversify your portfolio and potentially access investments that were previously out of reach.
It is. And then crowdfunding platforms are another interesting development. They allow individuals to pool their money together to invest in projects or businesses they believe in.
Yeah.
Often with much lower minimum investment requirements.
So it's like democratizing access to investment opportunities that were traditionally only available to like wealthy individuals or institutions.
Precisely. And all these innovations are changing the face of financial documents.
That's all right.
We're moving towards a world of real-time updates, personalized insights, and interactive platforms. It's both exciting and a bit daunting to keep up.
It is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway is that, while the financial landscape is evolving rapidly, those fundamentals of financial literacy remain crucial. Budgeting, saving, investing wisely, those core principles will always be relevant no matter what new technologies emerge.
I completely agree. And never underestimate the power of, curiosity and continuous learning. The more informed you are, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the complexities of the financial world and make smart decisions that align with your goals.
That's a great reminder. So even though our deep dive into financial documents ends here, your own exploration is just beginning. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep striving for that brighter financial future. Until next time.